Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Pitch. Matt Price coming to you from my room in Rockland County, New York, as obviously one of the biggest stories of the entire weekend, if not the entire week, I should say, has been the NFL draft and free agency coming along with it. What were the best moves? What were the weakest moves? What were the controversies? We're going to talk about it right here, right now. I'd like to welcome in my panel for this week, Natalya Joyella, who is currently driving 12 hours to Florida. I believe that is what she said. Is that right, Natalya?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Well, safe travels, by the way. Glad you could join us while you're in your car. Hopefully you don't lose the signal. We also have Mihrab Samad, Gabby Hurlbut, the great Dane Richardson joining us as a panelist for the first time, James Murphy or Matt Forte, depending on the jersey, and Mike Memis. Hello to all of you. How's everyone doing?
Good. Doing well.
Doing real good.
Pretty well.
Real good.
All right. Let's talk about the biggest stories going on right now, especially when it comes to the NFL draft. There's actually, you all would think I'm going to start with the Giants or the Jets or even the Buffalo Bills or even, when it comes to Gabby's stake, the New England Patriots, but I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to talk about the controversial pick that occurred in the first round back on Thursday. It involves the Green Bay Packers. As I pull up the pick here, 26th pick. The Packers got it from the Texans through the Dolphins. And it's Jordan Love, quarterback out of Utah State. And the 2 rounds after that pick, the Packers have yet to choose a wide receiver, which was the one thing that Aaron Rodgers needed. He did not get it, and now there is controversy surrounding this pick. Dane Richardson, I am going to start with you. What were your thoughts on the Green Bay Packers choosing a quarterback in the first round and not choosing a wide receiver at all? Obviously, putting a lot of pressure on Aaron Rodgers.
Well, first off, not taking a wide receiver at all in the draft, obviously I don't agree with that. But when I saw the pick originally, you think back to when they picked Aaron Rodgers sort of as the successor for Brett Favre, how many years Rodgers had to sit. And Jordan Love's really a raw talent. So you look at him and you think, oh, that can be sort of the exact same situation, and that could work out perfectly. And I first saw it as that. It's sort of like a mirror image between Favre and Rodgers, possibly. Not that Love and Rodgers have the same talent. I'm not saying that. But then you think of a guy with the ego such as Aaron Rodgers, and that's not going to make him happy at all. So I think in the long run it might work out for the Packers, but in the immediate future there could definitely be some turmoil in the front office, and I think we're all very interested to see whether, he could demand a trade. What is he going to want to do? Is he going to want out of Green Bay? How good of a mentor is he going to be to Jordan Love? Immediate reaction, I liked it, but then again, there's some problems that start to work into your head.
The interesting thing about this, and, most of us are in this group chat, which our wonderful friend Gabby Hurlbut put together at least a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And the funny thing about this is that we were all going off. We all went off about this pick. Totally unexpected, totally unprecedented. James, what were your thoughts on this pick? And could we see some drama unfold before the season even begins between Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers front office?
Well, as you guys, some of you may know, as I know Matt and Mike and Rob definitely know this, but my brother and dad are actually Packer fans. My dad was born and raised about 30 minutes outside of Milwaukee.
Packers.
And they're usually pretty confident in the moves that the GM makes, even when a lot of people might not think the same way. I'm not sure how my uncle feels about it. From what I'm seeing, he is in denial, but that's for another day. As for this pick, now I can see the need to find Rodgers' successor at some point. His stats are definitely, and the guy who could carry a franchise with a few sticks and a bale of hay is gone. He's going to need support around. He's going to need guys to keep him from getting hit. He's going to need receivers who can get open without him having to wait around as much. And that's what they're going to need. That's going to need to be the formula. So it definitely surprised me to forget about that need entirely, as Dane mentioned. especially in such a wide receiver deep draft such as this one, where you could have gotten a probable starter as late as round 3. So that's definitely going to be very interesting. And obviously, now Dane mentioned how obviously Jordan Love has a lot of talent, and it can sort of be related to Aaron Rodgers. But the difference with Aaron Rodgers was that year in 2005, a lot of people had him going in the top 10 that year, and he fell to the Packers. So it was one of those things where even if he's there and even if you don't really need one for the immediate future, it's on anyway. So I'm really conflicted about this, and I think it's just going to be one of those things that we're going to have to give time. It's very possible Rodgers requests a trade and wants out. It's very possible he stays for as long as his contract lets him stay and try and groom Jordan Love in a way that Brett Favre never necessarily did. But, we're just going to have to give this one time.
Gabby, before Tom Brady signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you could argue that Aaron Rodgers was the Tom Brady of the NFC. Whether the Packers made to the playoffs or made it far into the playoffs or not, this was the guy who everyone, and still is one of the few guys that everyone fears, not just in the NFC, but in the entire NFL. Looking back at Aaron Rodgers' career, when Brett Favre had his final year in Green Bay, it was the year the Giants knocked them out of the NFC Championship, and obviously the Giants went on to win Super Bowl 42. And Aaron Rodgers was the backup quarterback. And then the year after, that was Rodgers' first year, and look what he's done since. He's even a Super Bowl champion winning quarterback, and this is a guy who you could argue could also play until he's 50. This guy has a lot of potential and a lot of talent left in him. He's got a lot of spark, a lot of juice left over. Do you think the Packers chose a successor too early?
I think that I definitely would say so. I think that I understand the intention behind it, because there is going to come a point in time where Rodgers can't play anymore. I mean, you've seen it with the Patriots and you've seen it with other teams. I think that it's definitely something that would have needed to happen in the long run. Whether that was right now, I don't necessarily think that it was the best move now. And I also don't think that if you want somebody to follow Aaron Rodgers, that Jordan Love necessarily might have been the best option for that either. I think that there's a lot that people still need to kind of see with this whole thing, in terms of the fact that, kind of like points that were brought up before, that like if Aaron Rodgers does request a trade or wants to play somewhere else, or like something happens, like he gets injured or what have you, or Jordan Love needs to step in, I think that that'd be a good way for us to really know if they made the right move by drafting Love when they did. But I also don't think that it was necessarily needed right now, because like I think that they have a lot more time left with Rodgers. I mean, granted, you don't know, like circumstances can always be different, but like it's just like one of those situations where I think that a quarterback wasn't necessarily that as much of a priority as they chose for it to be by drafting Jordan Love. I mean, I think that he's a really good player, and I think that he was really good in college, but I think that the Packers can definitely use a few more years with Rodgers and possibly win another Super Bowl. I mean, they easily could with the talent that they have offensively. However, I think that it's good. It's a good thing to keep in mind, to have somebody to follow, a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers or like a Tom Brady or like a quarterback like that. But
without a doubt.
But if they try to do that right now, like they're risking losing a quarterback that could very easily get them another championship in the next few years.
Absolutely. I mean, think about this. Aaron Rodgers was this close. Well, I mean, obviously the score tells another story when it comes to this past NFC championship, but he was close to sending the Packers back to the Super Bowl, because Green Bay hasn't been in the Super Bowl since they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in Super Bowl 40. I'm sorry, I'm blanking for a second. Super Bowl 45.
44, I believe.
The other thing that I wanted to, the other thing I kind of left out that I wanted to bring up is that Jordan Love's going to have to learn the system too, just like any new quarterback is going to have to. And if they're trying to go for a championship now, with how far that they got last year, and usually they go pretty far. They just don't end up going to the Super Bowl. But like, if you're going for a championship now, it's like, you really want to focus as much on training a new quarterback or risking a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers leaving and then having that championship be in jeopardy when you know that you have the talent level now with a quarterback like him to go all the way potentially right now.
You know, I just want to bring up some stats that I found from Jordan Love. So Love, 3-year quarterback coming out of Utah State. His passer rating, well, yeah, it's his passer rating. His passer rating in 2018, 158.3. That is a perfect passer rating. It's perfect. And coming off of last year, this past season, I should say, 129.1. This guy is the real deal, and this is where I'll welcome in Mike and Mihrab. Basically, Jordan Love, he may be feeling the love sort of in Green Bay, but right now, with everything that's going on, Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he wants to feel the love right now. Right now, he's feeling like he just got sidetracked.
Yeah, I mean, the stats, I get that he had good, his stats in college. It really doesn't matter. First of all, they traded up for this pick. So not only did they pick him, they also gave up draft capital for him, which they could have used for multiple players. Furthermore, you also have, remember, he's not going to be playing for a few years unless Rodgers suffers an injury. He has had injuries throughout his career. So it is possible that happens, but right now the projection is for at least first 3 or 4 years of his career, he's not going to even be playing much, maybe except for garbage time minutes. Rodgers obviously did, he has. The fact of the matter is, you think you could win now. I think in the odds they are not that high in the NFC. I think they're overall they're 6th or 7th. But they're one game away. If the 49ers weren't as good a team last year, they may be in the Super Bowl. I don't think they win the Super Bowl, but they were pretty close, that team, and they just needed a few more weapons. And also to remember, Mike McCarthy, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike McCarthy's been the coach for Aaron Rodgers' his whole career. They have a new coach now. So I could see from that perspective, maybe the coach isn't right. He wants his own QB for the future, for his coaching career, where Rodgers is not the guy that he did. Usually kind of more happens with general managers, but with McCarthy gone, you have that, it's a different world in Packerland now.
Absolutely. So, Mihrab, obviously the one piece that I mentioned before at the beginning of the show that Aaron Rodgers needed, and Aaron Rodgers, I think, even said it himself was he needed another receiver, just that one receiver that could help the Packers offense just explode throughout the 2020 season and even maybe the next 1 or 2 seasons after that. The receivers they have right now, Devontae Adams, Alan Lazard, even Devin Funchess, the former Carolina Panther. This Packers squad is stacked with talent, but they're just missing that one spot, and it feels like right now Green Bay might have blown it, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it makes no sense to me because, as you said, they made the conference finals last season, and this was a very big wide receiver class. You got Denzel Mims going at pick 58 to the Jets, and you have such great players just all around, and why would you pick this year QB class? Because if Rodgers was on a decline, you could have waited next year, and then options like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields are available as well. It just makes no sense to pick in because this year's QB class is also pretty good.
You can use it on a defensive player if you don't want a receiver, because Rodgers can, he could do stuff with anyone. I mean, he's done stuff with guy Jeff Janis or whatever, guys that you don't really hear of besides the fact they were on the Packers, and they had a big game because Rodgers was doing that. He could make plays by himself. If you want to not draft a receiver, let's say you don't think a guy is out there, but I believe Justin Jefferson, was out there still. I could be wrong about that, but at least go for a defensive guy. I don't see how drafting a QB and would have made sense. They could have drafted 5 and went to the Bills. And, obviously not the same talent as Jordan Love, but he's a very talented guy, a guy you could groom for the future, for the Packers. So I
Yeah.
Spending a first-round pick on that doesn't make sense. The Giants, when they did it last year, I criticized their move drafting a QB, but you had another first-round pick, and they were able to trade up for another one, so you had 3 first-round picks. Using on a QB is not as damaging. Obviously, different situations, but I don't know. It doesn't seem maybe Rodgers does want to leave, or he's not going to re-sign after this deal.
Here's the thing, Michael. If you say maybe Rodgers wants to leave, why would you pick a project like Jordan Love? Because he's not a guy you want to throw in day one. Like, I would throw probably 4 or 5 other quarterbacks in this draft before I would throw him with Tim, because granted, he had a really good year at Utah State, but then all his weapons left, and we really didn't see him kind of create. We kind of saw him had an iffy kind of bad year, sort of compared to like Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones didn't have many weapons at Duke, but he still sort of made the best out of that, better than Jordan Love did. So basically,
I could even compare it to Markelle Fultz, because Fultz, remember, he was supposed to have Marquise Chris and I forget who the other person was, but he was supposed to have 2 really good guys, and they both went and decided to declare for the draft, and then Fultz was left by himself, and he had a really bad Washington team. So I don't think he's going to leave right away, but if he's going to leave after the contract, I believe he has a few years left. So maybe they're waiting, after the contract ends, which he has a few years left, I believe, that they're going to have Jordan Love start. But I don't know how much longer Rodgers' career is going to last. He's a mobile QB, so that does take.
Well, we shall see. We shall see how this move will pay off, if it does pay off, depending on when the NFL season starts and if the preseason will begin on time. But I'm going to tell you, it is going to be very interesting, and I totally believe that there's going to be drama brewing in Packerland. So get ready. Things might get a little cheesy up in Green Bay. But now I want to shift over to Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Eagles, and this is where I will welcome in Natalya Joyella for the first time tonight. Natalya, the Eagles, making move after move after move. Your team getting wide receiver after wide receiver, but I think the biggest move of the day was getting one of the fastest receivers out there in the NFC, if not the entire NFL, and that is Marquise Goodwin from the NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. Your thoughts on everything the Eagles have been doing, especially the moves they made today? Natalya, are you there? Okay, it seems we're having some technical difficulties right here.
With John Hightower.
Oh, here we go.
John Hightower, it was.
Keep going, Natalya. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I think, I don't really know anything about John Hightower. All I really know is what everyone else knows, with the fact that he was very low pick on the totem pole. They're 168th, I think, on the totem pole. So we'll see what happens. He's out of Boise State.
Boise.
I've seen some photos of him playing, his videos and stuff. He seems good, so we'll see what happens, honestly.
Did you think that the Marquise Goodwin deal was a good deal for the Eagles, especially in the position they've been in for the past couple of years?
I think
it's hard to say. I miss the old ways of the Eagles, so I'm so true to the old ways of the Eagles and old players. So bringing on new players and new management, we'll see what happens. Honestly, that's all I can say.
All right. First of all, to all our viewers at home, we apologize if Natalya is breaking in and out. She's currently in a car, as you can see, driving all the way down to Florida. She might be in some areas where the signal might go out. So not Natalya's fault. Just want to put it out there. But great insight, Natalya. Thank you very much. James, let's get you back in here. I want you to pick up where Natalya said about how this move could really impact the Eagles, especially with their chances of going up against the Cowboys and even the Giants possibly in the NFC East.
Which move are we talking about, Dusty?
from Hightower to the Marquise Goodwin deal?
Well, the Goodwin deal provides the thing that the Eagles, for me, had been lacking for at least the later part of last year. And that depth. Obviously, they'll still have Alshon and Deshaun Jackson. When healthy, still gives you great speed, which is especially valuable in today's league. But it's important to have a lot more guys who can do that in this day and age. And this was just a means to fortify that. They already solved that need in the draft when it came to Jalen Reagor, and bringing in Marquise Goodwin for me adds a bit of experience to the mix, which I think is something that benefit the Eagles in ways that they may not have even realized they needed improving on, because that's a huge thing in today's league. Obviously, one of the bigger things is to have good young talent, but at some point, that young talent needs to be sort of led by people who have been in the league for a couple of years and know the tools of the trade. I think that's what Marquise Goodwin brings to the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, he was a player for the 49ers. I think he can have – but they do need people that can run fast, and he's a fast runner, so we'll see what happens. But, I really don't know what's going to happen. That's why I keep saying we'll see. We really don't know what's going to happen.
He also drafted a receiver, and apparently his pro comparison is nothing.
Go figure. Let's get Gabby back in this. So, Gabby, obviously the 49ers have been making move after move, and the Marquise Goodwin deal is no different, but they also made a deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are trying to make a run for the NFC South. The Niners are basically it's surprising how many moves they're making, especially after they just came out as champions of the NFC, period. With all the moves that they've been making, do you see them possibly on a decline before the season starts and then heading into the season?
I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but I definitely was very confused about what exactly they were trying to do and, what their strategy is, because getting rid of talent like that it was just shocking to me to see them get rid of somebody like a Matt Breida or a Marquise Goodwin, and it's are you trying to tank for somebody, or are you just trying to rebuild the way that your offense is set up so that I don't really know for sure exactly what they were trying to do with those kinds of moves, but I mean my guess would be maybe they're just trying to maybe they're interested in potentially other different types of players that maybe there's something else going on that we don't really know about yet, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe they feel like they can better build their offense for him, but it's just kind of confusing to me a little bit, just because with that team that you had there, that's a team that almost won the Super Bowl. So if it were me, I really wouldn't have wanted to change much of anything, but maybe they were just going for a more draft picks. I don't really know, but I think that I don't want to rule them out altogether, like you were saying about the decline, but I do kind of potentially, see a decline, because now it's what weapons he doesn't really have as many weapons anymore, and it kind of just to me seems like they're not going to be as much of a threat as they were, because last year they were just one of those teams that you knew from the beginning was going to be good, with as long as Jimmy Garoppolo was healthy, with the talent that they had, and the fact that most of the team is young and haven't even hit their prime yet was another reason why I was a little bit confused. And so you have this team coming in that had a lot of young talent that you knew was probably going to be good as long as people stayed healthy. But now it's I'm having a little bit more trouble getting behind exactly what they're doing and exactly what their strategy is, because those are not the types of moves that I would think that they would want to make at this point in time, seeing as how much success that they had last year in Jimmy Garoppolo's first real year since he was injured.
Well, I think the thing with the Niners is that I don't think it's so much about gaining assets or really tanking anyway. They're definitely Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and everyone in San Francisco aware that they are in a championship window. Here's the way I see it with them. Last year, they popularized a system. You run first. You have Jimmy Garoppolo throw only when he has to, and you have a strong defense. And now that they have a better idea of what the system is and what it takes to succeed, I think that obviously they did lose some guys. Obviously, they did willingly trade away a lot of them. But I think to find guys who would fit that said system better. I mean, again, we didn't see Marquise Goodwin make quite as big of an impact last year. Deebo Samuel was definitely the guy in that offense, so I'm not sure it'll affect him as much. Emmanuel Sanders, who's at the moment, but that'll definitely sting a little bit. Even so, I think they were able to replace a lot of the outgoing guys with someone else. Oh, we lost DeForest Buckner? Oh, well, let's get this defensive lineman from South Carolina. Oh, we lost Emmanuel Sanders. All right, let's go get this Ayuk from Arizona State.
I was just about
it's all about the system over there.
To bring him up. Yes, I was just about to bring him up because I was thinking, you know what, if they're trading away Marquise Goodwin, then Brandon Ayuk of Arizona State, he might be the piece to fill in that gap because they wouldn't have drafted him first round if they didn't think he was good enough to be the missing piece of this puzzle that could potentially get the Niners back into the Super Bowl and even potentially win a Super Bowl. Mihrab, do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting because what's it called? It's an interesting situation for sure for the we're talking about the Niners,
correct? Yes.
Niners, yeah. So for the thing. I'm sorry, I was looking up a stat for one
That's
of the
okay.
I just want to add something with the Niners. They added Trent Williams. They also drafted a tackle. And Joe Stiley retired, so they added an extra tackle to their line to kind of fortify the line. I don't know if either are as good as Staley, because Staley has just been so great. Trent Williams is really good, though, I'd say. I don't know how good their tackle's going to be. They did draft him high. I think with the trades, though, Goodwin, it makes sense thinking that they did draft a receiver. I don't think they got they probably could have gotten more for him. I feel like they got very little. Breda, I think the value they got for him made sense because of the fact that running backs are, very high, are not valued highly in this league. And also, they don't have a lot of treads. So I don't know how much longer Matt Breda has with his legs. And 49ers still have Mozart. They still have Coleman. So they still have two running backs. Three-headed monster was nice, but you could survive with two running backs next year. I think it's a problem that, teams sometimes don't even have one good running back. So having two good running backs, I think, is good enough for this offense. And hopefully they have to hope Jimmy Garoppolo takes a step up so they can pass it more.
And speaking of stepping up, that actually leads me to the last point we can make as we just have a few minutes left in the show. And Dane, this is for you to start us off. Who do you think, out of everything we saw over these past couple of nights, who do you think is the biggest winner of the NFL draft? Out of all 32 teams and out of everything that took place relating to the draft and free agency, who's your biggest winner? Who is your biggest loser and why?
The biggest loser for me would be Oakland.
Las Vegas.
Sorry.
You're the first one to make that mistake.
I'm the first one to make that mistake. Hold on.
Not the first, and he won't be the last. Go on.
Okay.
I'm
I apologize. The Las Vegas Raiders. Mainly because, Henry Ruggs has a lot of speed, but I feel like John Gruden and Damon Arnett, I think he has talent, but they got enamored with guys that I felt like they could have taken in later rounds. They had 2 first-round reaches that I didn't like really at all. Overall, I thought a lot of teams had a lot of very good drafts. I thought the Giants had a good draft. I thought the Jets had a good draft. I even thought my Steelers had a good draft. But the 2 teams that stood out to me were the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Dallas Cowboys. I thought both of them had really good drafts. I thought Jacksonville did well, especially on that defensive end. Chason was really a steal in the late first round out of LSU. CJ Henderson's a really talented corner they got in the top 10. And Dallas, they had some really good late-round guys. Bradley Anae, if he could potentially turn into something. I forget the name, the center out of Wisconsin, to go along with a guy like CeeDee Lamb. I get that they might not need another weapon, but CeeDee Lamb could be a number 1 receiver for a very long time for Dak Prescott.
Natalya, who is your biggest winner from the draft?
I know more so my loser, and I'm going to go with the Packers for that. But the winner, I would go with the Eagles. while people think it's going to be a loss coming out of it, I think we'll have to see. Like I said, it could be good for, I do miss the old, I told you, the old players and stuff, but the new players, I mean, they need the speed. If it's good, we can plot. They're not a bad team, they haven't been for a while.
No, absolutely. Gabby, what about you?
I honestly think that the NFC East overall as a whole had a pretty good draft. I think the Cowboys are going to be really, really fun and really interesting to watch because I think that they got a lot of help for Dak Prescott that they needed. And especially with new coaching, I think it's going to be fun to kind of see how that goes down there. And I think also, I think the Eagles did a lot with what they had, and the Giants, surprisingly, who usually don't always have the best picks, or people criticize their picks a lot. I think they did have a really good draft too. And I think they came in to this draft, or it seemed like they came into this draft knowing a little bit more of kind of what they wanted, and exactly what they needed to fill. So I think that division as a whole, I'd say, was probably who I'd say had the best draft or made the most of the draft. And then at the bottom, I probably would say either the Packers or maybe the Raiders, and then that's probably about it. Everybody else I probably would put in the middle somewhere.
All right, James, very quickly.
Well, for me, the winner of this draft is probably the Miami Dolphins, and it's not so much
I was going to say them too.
They have. It's because that draft is a reflection of the culture that they are trying to build over in Miami. They already have a guy who was from a winning culture in Brian Flores. They got their franchise QB in Tua Tagovailoa. They got tackle right after him and Austin Jackson, solidified pretty much every general area of the field on both sides of the ball, and made that trade for Matt Breida. So that draft is going to be really good for the Dolphins in terms of helping to get where they want to be, especially now that a new window has opened up in the AFC East.
Mihrab, quickly, biggest winner and biggest loser.
I gotta say, Joe Douglas is a magician. He took a second round pick. A second round pick.
I was gonna say we're.
He took one second round pick and turned into one of the best wide receivers in the draft.
Are you talking about Denzel Mims?
Yes.
Listen, this guy had a ton of problems he had a great Senior Bowl, granted, but I still see good. But I see a lot of holes there.
But his motivation,
he was the ninth best wide receiver in my opinion.
But his motivation is still there, though. Did you see the comments he made after he got drafted? He's there to prove a point. And I feel as though with his talent and with a little bit more in taking care of himself with his injuries and all, he can be there. He can be the guy for the Jets to replace Robbie Anderson. And then we got some good pieces. We got Ashton Davis, Jabari. I don't know his last name. I'm sorry, but and then we got a pick for next year too, right? From the Patriots, we got our
yes.
So
Nice Hall at corner. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just sorry about this, Mihrab. We're running out of time. I'm very sorry, but Mike, quickly, winner and loser.
Okay, so winner of because you said draft free agency. Winner of draft free agency is obviously the Bucs. Look at all the pieces they added, especially Tom Brady, obviously, and Gronk. Winner of the draft is Roger Goodell, though. I found myself hating him less after this draft. I felt like he actually seemed like a hero, not a villain, which you usually see him as a villain in these drafts. Biggest loser, I'm going to say just the undrafted free agents, because of the fact they're not going to have – it's going to be harder for them to be signed because you're not going to have workouts with the team. I know it's not really a team. It's kind of a chicken-out answer because you guys have kind of already said a lot of them, but those are my winners and losers.
All right. Well, we shall see. As Natalya says, we'll see what happens as the NFL season arrives. I want to thank Natalya, Mihrab, Gabby, Dane, James, and Mike for joining me. Join us next week. Same pitch time, same pitch place. I'm Matt Price. See you next time.